Episode 87, Viewing Your Body as an Instrument with Lisa Salisbury.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and certified through the Life Coach School. Together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
In the October 2014 General Conference, Elder Jorg Klevingat said, "Your soul consists of your body and spirit. Feeding the spirit while neglecting the body, which is a temple, usually leads to spiritual dissonance and lowered self-esteem. If you are out of shape, if you are uncomfortable in your own body and can do something about it, then do it." Coach Lisa Salisbury agrees wholeheartedly with these words and is teaching her clients the importance of truly taking care of their bodies, not just for weight loss, but for connection with their spirits so that the body and spirit can be congruent in their work on this earth. This is Lisa's second episode on the podcast, and this episode is just as great as her first. So be sure to listen so that you can gain a better understanding of what it means to not just have a body that is considered a temple, but treat it as if it is one in how you eat, move, and use it as an instrument during your mortal journey.
Hey, everybody. We are so glad to have you with us today. And I am especially glad to have Coach Lisa Salisbury with me. She's been on before and we had a great conversation then. And I anticipate and know we will have a fun conversation now. She has a fun little dog that I keep hearing in the background. I have a dog that you'll probably hear in the background. Hopefully our dogs don't have a conversation via our podcast. But Lisa, hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, how are you doing this morning?
I am so good. Thanks for being here. Now, I know you've been on before and you've introduced yourself here, but I would love for you to introduce yourself again in case people haven't heard that first episode that we did together.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Lisa Salisbury. I live in Northern California with my husband and depends on the day, sometimes 2 kids, sometimes 4 kids, depending on who's home from college. And I'm a health and weight loss coach. I graduated in health and human performance from BYU ages and ages ago. And that really just started my lifelong love of health and wellness. I got my health coaching certification through Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and then went on to get my life coach / weight loss coaching certification through the Life Coach School, as all the coaches here. So lots in my background with health and wellness. Plus I also have just really dieted my entire life. And so one of the things I've really been noticing lately is that I am a recovered chronic dieter. And it's what I really focus on helping my clients with, is just to drop old diet mentality, checking in with their bodies instead of a diet app, just dropping all of that obsession with trying the next new diet on Monday, and just getting clear with what health is, what wellness is for you. And usually my clients lose weight along the way.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself and for sharing your life experience and history. I think that is always so good to hear and understand. And also your house sounds a lot like my house. Like you just never quite know what the number might be. Mine's 2 right now, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 if my son-in-law's here. So
yeah,
it's always good.
I'm like, who's going to be home for dinner? Like, please let me know ahead of time. No, they don't.
I sent that text. I just sent that text to my family. Who's going to be here tonight? I think we just need to get started with this conversation so that people can hear all the good stuff you've got to share. So tell us, like, we've had this conversation before, or not this exact conversation, but you and I have talked before. And you are a weight loss coach. So it's obviously, we're going to focus on that and that sort of area, but I'm curious, what's different? What's going to be different from today's conversation?
What are we talking about? Yeah. Well, I've been noticing lately that there's kind of this incongruency between loving our body and basically the thought, like, if I love my body, I should be fine with where it is and not insist on changing it. So I notice people sometimes feel a little bit of shame around wanting to lose weight. Like, I should just be happy with where I am. And I just think that's really interesting because I think, hate is not a prerequisite for change. Sometimes we think we don't change things that we love, but really that's not true, because we're not trying to so much change our body when we lose weight as we just want to take care. Because if you ask yourself, like, am I taking exquisite care of myself right now? If that answer is no, then you can say, well, what would exquisite care look like? Sometimes that means we need to lose some weight or get active or change what we're fueling ourselves with. Sometimes we just are thinking, I need to give my body more nutrient dense foods. And often that's what results in weight loss. So it's not that we need to come in with a weight loss goal as much as we want to come in with, am I really taking care of this body?
I think that's such an interesting conversation, right? Because like taking care of our body, what does that mean? And some people automatically think that taking care of our body goes to losing weight. And other people think it has nothing to do with that, right? Like it just depends on who you talk to. So it kind of can be a tricky conversation sometimes. And I'm sure you find that with your clients.
Yeah, for sure. We do want to look for ways to improve things. And we see this in just like daily activities. I'm the ward camp director, and we're coming right up on camp. We have the very first week for girls camp. And I'm noticing that there's a lot of changes this year. And I think, okay, our leaders, like the stake leaders, we love girls camp, but also they're looking for ways to improve it, to make it run smoother, to make it be a better experience for the girls to be a part of, to make them more comfortable. So this year they decided, you know what? We've always camped by wards in this stake. We're going to try camping by levels. They aren't doing it because they hated camping by wards, right? They're doing it to say, like, could we make this a better experience? And I think that's what we're looking for, that kind of attitude with self-improvement. Could I make this life a better experience? And that's all about that's what coaching is all about, really, is taking where we are currently and up-leveling. What would make living in this body a better experience? Sometimes it's losing weight, but it's also probably getting stronger. Maybe we need to get more physically active. Maybe you're just like, I notice I'm not eating any vegetables. That might make this living in this body a little bit better. Does that make sense? We just want to see, like, how could we make this run smoother? How can I make my day-to-day life easier?
Which is some fantastic points there. And I love how you compared it to girls camp. We've all had experiences with girls camp. There's sometimes it doesn't run great and sometimes it runs fantastically. But I think one of the things that is tricky too in this is that we have a lot of social influence on what we think a body should look like. And I think sometimes that emotional and mental story that we tell ourselves it makes it hard to separate, like, could my body really truly function better? Or do I just think this because I think it should look differently? And I know that I'm not expecting you to even have an answer to this, but I just think it gets to be kind of a tricky place to be, is like, where do we decide if it's like, do I really think I need to look differently? Or is because I think I should look this way, it's making me feel negatively towards how my body even functions? That's not necessarily even like what you're looking like, what we're looking like isn't even really what you're talking about. But I think that's what people instantly go to. Like, they think they need to look differently. And for whatever reason, I mean, I guess I'm speaking from personal experience. When I think I need to look differently, I can't figure out if the reason I don't feel great is because I'm like bashing my body and like I'm feeling all like, oh, it kind of feels a little awkward to move right here because I feel like I have a little bit more of this. Or is that really true? Or is it just because my body's hypersensitive to thinking that I shouldn't have a role right there? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. It's difficult to separate the way we are looking at ourselves in the mirror and thinking about what would be the best way to take care of this body, because we do look in the mirror every day. I hope that you look in the mirror and have nice things to say, but a lot of us don't. A lot of us say a lot of mean things to ourselves in the mirror. And we forget that this body is truly a gift. And we know that from the scriptures. The often quoted one is 1 Corinthians 6:19, know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you. Usually when we talk about our bodies being a temple, it moves to a chastity discussion, or sometimes like a what you shouldn't put in it discussion, right? Mm-hmm. But I really love to think about this gift, this temple, and taking care of it the way that we take care physically of the temples on earth, right? Like, have you ever had to sign up in your ward for temple cleaning? I don't know if this happens in every temple district. Does this sound familiar? Do you guys do it?
Used to. Yeah, I feel like we used to, but actually I think it's a calling in our area now. I think people have the calling and they do it, but I don't know.
There's different ways in different temple districts. The one that I currently live in, your ward is assigned and you go and they're like literally my job the last time I did this was, could you dust the top of the picture frames? And I'm like, what? Who does that? Who does the top of the picture frames? I got all done dusting with all the things I was supposed to dust, and my cloth did not look any different. Like, the way we take care physically of the temple is crazy. The workers throughout the day, they're emptying trash, they're running the carpet sweeper. Then we get like the thorough cleaning of the temple every week. We get a shutdown every 6 months. And so they do the windows and the carpets, like bigger things. Worn areas are refreshed. They're not like, we hate that chair, let's recover it. They're like, this chair looks a little worn, let's improve it. And if we paid attention to our physical bodies the way we pay attention to the physical needs of the temple in that way, we'd be keeping things tidy daily. We'd be like, what do I need today? Where do I need to clean up things a little bit? Maybe every 6 months, we're like going to the dentist, we're having our preventative pap smears, we're doing blood work type appointments. On a regular basis, we're doing our preventative testing, like our mammograms. And all of that contributes to taking care of our bodies. When we hate our body, we're not like, you know what I should do? I should go to the doctor and just get some blood work done and see how I'm doing. Like, no one wants to see their blood work when they know they're not doing the things. But if we think about the way we take care physically of the temple, and we're like, hey, that is a gift to us, and we like clean it and we just take such good care of it. President Nelson said, each time you look in the mirror, see your body as your temple. That truth, refreshed gratefully each day, can positively influence your decisions about how you will care for your body and how you will use it. And those decisions will determine your destiny. How could this be? Because your body is the temple for your spirit, and how you use your body affects your spirit. And again, a lot of times we interpret these types of quotes when we're like using our body, we're like, oh, that's a chastity discussion, but it's not. We use our bodies way more often as instruments every day for things that don't have anything to do with your chastity lessons, right? It's every day. Are we moving our body in a way that feels good? Are we fueling it in a way that feels good?
I love that you use the word instrument in that, because one of my favorite quotes, and maybe we talked about it before, is from the Kite sisters. It says our bodies are an instrument, not an ornament.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get hung up so many times. So often is we think that we need to look a certain way in order to be the person that we want to be. And there's so much work that we need to do in our heads to get past that. I think as women, we get really stuck on that. Anyway, I love the word instrument. I think there is so much that you and I and everybody listening that we have to accomplish here on this earth. And if we spend all the time thinking about how we look, it really like keeps us stagnant and in one place. So the idea of like I love that you use the word exquisite care is so much more than what we look like.
And the only reason that we end up using the scale to measure, it's just a tool of data. If we're like, you know what, when I weigh this amount, my knees don't hurt and I can walk better. Like that's such a common thing for my clients is they're like, I just need to take some pressure off my joints and I move better when and we're not even talking like getting down to their like, pre-baby weight or anything absurd like that. We're not even getting there. We're just like, if I can take a little pressure off, that's the kind of thing we want to focus on. There's so many other ways besides the scale to see if you're treating your body in the way you want to.
Mm-hmm. I know that you and many weight loss coaches feel that when we're talking about food and being healthy, there's a lot more that goes into it than a number on the scale. It also is really easy for us to get stuck there and thinking,
Sure.
there needs to be a certain number, but what are some of the ways that somebody can gauge that they are doing a really good job taking care of their body and have it be totally independent from a number on the scale?
Yeah, such a good question, because definitely my clients, we set goals that have nothing to do with the scale. If they want to have a scale goal, we do, but they come to me with things like, I just need to have more energy. And so we use energy ratings. So I have them give themselves a rating right now on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like, I'm not able to get out of bed today. And 10 is like, Energizer Bunny, I did everything I wanted to do. Like, where's your current energy level? And then we reevaluate, midway through. And then at the end of our coaching time together to see if the lifestyle changes that they are making is having an effect on their energy. And I mean, I don't want to be like, I'm amazing, but it does always work. We do always see an increase.
Kind of you do.
Well, because when you make lifestyle changes where you're like, I'm going to take better care of myself, you do have more energy. And close behind that, another one is sleeping better. Old diet advice that's like, don't eat after 7. That's a dumb diet rule. If you're like, don't eat after 7, you'll lose weight. Like, what? Why? That's dumb. But if you're like, I want to not eat after dinner because I sleep better when I go to bed, not feeling so full. Now you have a powerful reason. Now it makes sense. Like, after dinner, I'm done eating, and then you sleep better. So you can take a look at your sleeping. Do I actually sleep better because I feel better when I go to bed? I don't have so much gas and bloating. Like, how many times have you kept yourself awake because you're like uncomfortable? You're like, I ate too much, whatever, dairy. And you're like, does not agree. Right. So we can see that we're taking care when we're like sleeping better. And then also that leads into, I think, digestive distress. Bloating and gas are not actually something you have to deal with. Like, this is a newsflash for most women. Definitely around your period and cycle, there can be some hormonal changes that cause that, regardless of what you're eating. But some women think that like, oh, gas and bloating, that's normal. Everybody has that every day. Like, it's not. You don't have to deal with that. And the most common cause is overeating. It's not usually like, a lot of my clients are like, well, maybe should I cut out this? Should I cut out that? And I'm like, how about just let's try not overeating and see if that helps. And 9 times out of 10, that's all it is. And so improvement in those physical symptoms, or maybe you've dealt with constipation or other kinds of digestive things that have gone awry. Improvement in those physical symptoms can be a great indication that you're doing a good job at taking care of your body, because it's like moving along better. Like, digestive distress is just so common. We don't even label it as distress. You're like, oh, of course, like, it's just normal. Like, I promise it's not. You don't have to deal with that.
One of the things I'm remembering from our first episode that you and I did together, and I'm going to say this wrong, so correct me, but I really liked that you said, we always are looking to other studies for like how we should take care of ourselves. And the best study we can do is the study we do on ourselves. And that's what this is making me think of, is like doing our own personal, like, study and doing some tests and trials for ourselves. And anyway, but I always thought that was a great comment.
Yeah, I do love that. Your food journal really is the best nutritional study you'll ever read, because it's yours. And if you are having these kinds of issues, or if you are having sleep issues, it's great to track those along with your food journal to see if there's anything that's causing you issues. Hey, I notice when I eat this, it keeps me up at night. I notice when I have this kind of food, it gives me heartburn, and that keeps me up at night.
Mhm.
So a lot of these things that we deal with, these physical symptoms, when they start to go away, that's how we know, oh, hey, I'm taking care of this body because it's not alerting me in physical ways that what I've eaten is not great for this body. And every body is different as far as what it can tolerate. And, you might be able to eat dairy and your sister may not be able to. And it's totally normal to have different things like that. But I think another way you can know if you are taking great care is if you have congruency with your body and spirit. And this is actually a word a client of mine used when we were working on her commitment. She was like, I feel incongruent with my body right now because my spirit inside is like, this isn't who you are. And so when you feel a little bit more in line, you can also notice that, hey, that means I'm taking care. And that has nothing to do with reaching a weight loss goal. She felt more congruent at the end of our working together, even though she wasn't at her ultimate, she had lost some weight, but she wasn't at her quote unquote goal weight. But she felt way more congruent because she's like, this is how my spirit wants me to take care of this body. And I just really loved that word that she used.
Yeah, that is a great word, congruent. I tend to be in my brain all the time. Like my brain's always just the thoughts. And if I can just take a moment and just really try to drop into my body and just sit with my body and kind of quiet my brain for a minute, there is something congruency. I think that word just really speaks well to that. Like if we can really just sit and pay attention to what our soul desires, what our soul wants, there is some congruency there that feels so powerful and so peaceful.
Yeah. Let me share something else here that I think is really good. It's a really great talk. I'm going to mess up his name, but I think it's Jorg Klevingat. I think you said his first name.
Sounds
Jorg,
good.
but his last name is Klevingat with a K. And the talk is called Approaching the Throne of God with Confidence. And he gives 6 practical suggestions to increase your spiritual confidence. His first one is to take responsibility for your spiritual well-being. And his second one is take responsibility for your own physical well-being. And he says your soul consists of your body and spirit. Feeding the spirit while neglecting the body, which is a temple, usually leads to spiritual dissonance and lowered self-esteem. If you are out of shape, if you are uncomfortable in your own body and can do something about it, then do it. And I love that part where he's like, hey, if you're uncomfortable, and you can do something. We're not talking about, if you have disabilities, if you are ill in some way, don't feel bad if you can't, but if you can, then go ahead and do it. Then he quotes President Russell M. Nelson has taught that we should regard our body as a temple of our very own, and that we should control our diet and exercise for physical fitness. We are asked by our leaders to care for our bodies in this way. The physical care is important because we want that spirit body connection so that they are combined. President Packer said, our spirit and body are combined in such a way that our body becomes an instrument of our mind and the foundation of our character. And there's that word instrument again. So I just had several quotes that I rely on pretty heavily. And just thinking about, we really are instructed. They don't spend a lot of time on it. You rarely hear it in conference, but it is important to use good judgment. Elder Klevingat continues, he says, please use good judgment in what and especially how much you eat, and regularly give your body the exercise it needs and deserves. If you are physically able, decide today to be the master of your own house and begin a regular long-term exercise program suited to your abilities combined with a healthier diet.
Once again, I think that, it's such a great conversation. It's just really being able to sit with our bodies and separate the judgment we might have because of social conditioning and how we truly feel. Like we really have to spend some time just sitting with our bodies and listening and understanding and having some compassion and less judgment in order to get to that place, I think, where we're able to make sound decisions rather than thinking oh, I have to be different because of the social conditioning that we have upon like what we think people should look like or what we think should be different about us. We have to make wise choices in everything we do.
I love that, making sound decisions. Instantly, I'm thinking about all of the fad diets that I jumped on. Like, those were not sound decisions. That was not based in creating long-term movement and nutrition-based goals. That was like just jumping on the latest thing. That was not a wise decision for me. It only created more obsession with my body, more concern for how I looked, more obsession with the scale. I was actually thinking this morning while I was driving, I was like, I have not been on a fad diet for 3 years. It is the longest period of my life since I was a teenager that I have not been trying or looking for or starting a new one on Monday. Like, it feels amazing.
That was going to be my next question. Like, tell me the difference between now and like 4 years ago. What feels different about you?
I'm just no longer thinking that a fad diet is going to solve any problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I just always thought, well, if I could just be this weight, like all my problems would go away. And so what's the fastest way to get there? It's these diet pills or this shake or these portion containers or this app, right? And that never was going to solve the way I felt about my body. What's different is that I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh yeah, these leggings are doing it for me. Like, I'm serious. I'm like, I say nice things to myself in the mirror now. And my body does not look any better really than it did 5 years ago. In fact, I mean, I'm only getting older and I'm like, I am rocking this outfit today.
Oh, I love that. You know what? My husband, I'll say something. This is one of the things I love about him. I'll be like, oh, I like those jeans. He's like, yeah, I look good in these, don't I? And I just love when he gives me those answers. I'm like, gosh, why have I've never felt like I could just say that. And I have learned a lot from the way he talks that I think is awesome. So I'm so happy that you're rocking those leggings.
Whenever I say, talking about the weather, if I ever say I'm hot, my husband always responds, I think so. So now he responds that way so often that whenever I think I'm physically hot temperature, then I actually hear it. I think so. And then like, I actually think so now, which is fun.
It is so fun. So fun. Okay. So we have talked about food and exercise, you know, obviously we know there's an emphasis there on too much or too little can harm our bodies or threaten our bodies. And because I do think it's important to realize that we can like do things to an extreme. We can exercise to an extreme. We can undereat to an extreme, right? Like that does happen. But I want to know what other things help us treat our physical bodies well that don't have to do with those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what else can we do beyond just one of the things that we mentioned before was like, you know, that you're treating your body well if you're sleeping better. But as far as what you can do, I think that's also like a priority you can have. You can make sleep a priority. You don't just have to wait to sleep better because you're moving your body and so you're tired, but just to go to bed. Give yourself the sleep experts call it sleep opportunity. So you want to be in bed for 7 to 9 hours. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not going to go to sleep, that's sleep opportunity time is when you're in bed.
I love that phrase.
Yeah. Because it's okay if you wake up in the night, but you want to stay in bed. You know, it's a scheduling thing. You got to look for many of us. If you're like me, you get up for early morning seminary with your kids. And so you're like, okay, if I have to be up at 5:45, what time does that mean I'm in bed? And so just making that a priority is, I think, one way you can really treat your body well. General movement too, beyond a formal fitness program, just general movement, just making sure that we're standing up for a few minutes every hour. If you work at a desk, getting outside for some sunshine, weather permitting each day, if possible, getting 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. That's all just general movement, which has nothing to do, again, with weight loss. The idea that you're going to like park your car farther away from the grocery store so you could walk in more, that's not to lose weight. That's for general movement, to move your body around, to take the stairs, to just, so that's something you want to do beyond your formal exercise program. Another one too is like thinking about your micronutrients. So your macronutrients are what your food is made up of, which we think of as carbohydrates, protein, and fats. That's what all foods are made up of. But underlying that is your micronutrients, which is your vitamins and minerals. So either in the form of supplementation or balancing your diet, even though I know you're like beyond food, but this is beyond the quantity or what foods you're eating, but thinking about, am I getting all of my micronutrient needs? I talk about the foundational 5 supplements, which is multivitamins, magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3s, and probiotics. So if you think about, okay, how can I get those in food, which is of course the ideal? Like, do you want to eat fish multiple times a week and getting vegetables at each meal to get those micronutrients and magnesium and things like that? I personally choose to supplement because I don't eat fish that often. So I take an omega-3. If you are eating probiotic foods like kimchi or sauerkraut or active culture yogurt, you may not need a probiotic. But if you're like, I don't like any of those things, then you might want to consider a probiotic. So just thinking about those kinds of micronutrients is another way to think about your fuel that's not about the quantity that you're eating or what you're not eating.
Yeah, those are some really good things to take into consideration. And I'm glad that you shared them with us, because it's easy to have those things go by the wayside and just get lost in the shuffle of all the other things that we think that we should or shouldn't be doing. And anyway, it's like, thank you for reminding us of those. So, okay. I know that you have this goal that you want to live to 100 years old. I love that, by the way. So I just want to know all the things about it, like what and why and how. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I think it's just fun. I think it's fun to say out loud and just to continue to voice it, because I think that's how we reach our goals, is by telling everyone that we're going to. But I had a great grandma that lived to be 100, and she babysat my sister and I when my parents went out of town in her early 90s, like for days.
Yeah.
Her and her daughter, who was in her 70s, they were in charge of us. And she was blind, but other than that, she was completely like functionally independent. She lived by herself, even though her vision was terrible. And I just admire her so much because she was an influence on me. And that's what I want. The reason I want to live to be 100 is because I want to be an influence for good on my grandchildren and continuing to be an influence on my adult children. But I want to be capable of travel to wherever they might live. I want to be able to walk out on the soccer fields and up into the bleachers. I want to be where they are. And functional independence is critical to that goal. So it's not just living to be 100, but it's training for that old lady body. And I actually just reposted a tweet I saw, which I'm going to make into my own graphic and find the original person so I can give them credit. But she said, training for my summer body? Heck no. I'm training for my old lady body, dense bones, strong muscles, a healthy heart, good balance, functional independence. I'm like, yes, that all starts right now. Like that stuff is so much more important. And I think that's the main reason too, why I have gotten off of the chronic fad diet train, why I've just like checked out. Cause I'm like, none of those things are going to get me to this. Those fad diets, they're not going to get me functional independence. They're not going to create a healthy heart and good balance and strong muscles. It's my weightlifting routine and my vegetables, my oatmeal. Like that's what's going to get me there. And then Heather's tearing up.
Oh, you guys, this is so funny. Not funny. I'm sorry. I'm like hijacking what you were saying, but I'm sitting here thinking my grandmother turned 90 this year, and she is one of my most favorite people in the world. And like, she exemplified, like, I'm so grateful I've had her in my life for this long. And
yeah, like, that's what I want. Like, I want to be her. Yeah. I want for my granddaughter to be like, I'm so glad. Like I have wished my grandmother did live until I had kids, but there's been some trials I've had, and I'm like, you know who would know the answer to this? My grandma Isla. She would know. Like I just want to ask her. And obviously we can't live forever, but I want to be available for as long as I can. I don't even have any married children, so looking forward to grandchildren might seem odd to some people, but I've been a grandchild.
Yeah. I've been a grandchild, and I know, like, not being able to have that influence of amazing older people in my life. Anyway, I feel, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there is so much more to life than, worrying about what we look like or the size that we are. But it is like a quality of life that we want to have for ourselves, and so that we can live an amazing life with the people that we love and make memories and have an influence. So thank you.
And none of that requires a certain weight on the scale. It just sometimes we need to lose weight in order to have functional independence and to strengthen our muscles. Sometimes it naturally happens when we work on these other things. So that's the only reason why weight loss even comes up. The number doesn't even matter. No one cares what the number is.
Well, Lisa, thank you for bringing me to tears, I guess. I don't think I've ever sat and cried in a podcast episode before. I did today, but
it's a first.
I think anything that makes me think of my grandmother brings me to tears, and I'm always so grateful that she's here in my life still. But thank you.
You are really lucky.
I am very lucky. So I recognize that. But thank you for sharing with us today, and for teaching us and sharing your life experiences. You've touched my heart. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Before we go, I would love for you to share with people where they can find more of you.
Sure. You can always go to my website. It's wellwithlisa.com, WELL with Lisa. My Instagram is well_with_Lisa, which is obnoxious, but there you go. You got to have the underscore sometimes. And you can download my free go-to meals guide. It's just a guide of what my go-tos are, and helps you figure out what yours should be, because everybody's a little bit different. But sometimes it's just helpful to have an example of what I mean by creating your own go-to meal. So you can see what mine are. I've got a handful of recipes in there, including my very favorite protein oatmeal, which I eat more often than not for breakfast, probably 9 days out of 10. I just eat the same thing. So you'll see that recipe in there as well. So grab that guide. You'll see that link on my website, as well as in my link in bio on my Instagram.
Oh, well, thank you. I am a recipe junkie. Like I think I get that from my grandma too. Like I don't even have to ever make anything. I just love to look through recipes, because I think there's something inspiring about them. So I'll have to go take a look at those. Thank you so much, Lisa. We will link to all of those things in the show notes, and can't wait to have you back another time.
All right. Thanks so much, Heather.
Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.